Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the In Off the Post podcast. Coming up on today's show, Mark Clattenburg gets clattered on social media, Nathan Redmond's pep talk, and the top 5 footballing underdogs. I'm your host, Daniel Bevan, here once again with Ross Dawson.
Hello, everyone.
And Liam Thomas.
What's up?
All that and more coming up in the next hour or so. But we start, as usual, with the results and round up with Ross.
Yes, very interesting weekend of football this week, I thought. We'll start off, obviously, chronologically, going through Saturday's games. West Brom 0, Crystal Palace 0, pretty much dead game. But it was a good point for Crystal Palace to gain, but obviously meant bad news for Swansea, who lost 2-1 to Stoke away. Boney scored his first since returning from Stoke, funnily enough. Returning to Swansea from Stoke, sorry. Shaqiri then equalised, and then Diouf won it for Stoke. Paul Clement now favourite for the next manager to be sacked, which is interesting enough.
Fair.
Not surprising though, given that most of the managers that have been struggling have already been sacked. Anyway, Leicester 1, Burnley 0. Drop points again for Burnley, however they do still remain in 7th place. Level on points with, I believe, Spurs, I think. Chelsea 3, Newcastle 1. Good comeback for Chelsea. Dwight Gale opened the scoring just like at Old Trafford a couple of weeks earlier. Hazard equalises and scores a penalty, and then a goal from Morata gave Chelsea the home win. Watford 1, Spurs 1. Spurs dropping points yet again.
That was a great game as well. It was a really good game.
Yeah, so Kabasele opened the scoring in the 13th minute, but it was poor marking from Spurs' defence. Heung-min Son then equalised for Spurs. Big talking point of the game was the sending off from Davison Sanchez. News emerging that Spurs won't appeal against it, so he will serve his 3-match ban.
Do you think it was?
Yeah,
it was.
So.
It was an elbow there.
It was a malicious challenge, I think.
People were talking about that Harry Kane did, they said basically the same thing 3 minutes earlier, but only got a yellow, but his elbow was not there.
No.
So, yeah, definitely red.
There was also a shout for a Watford penalty as well via a handball in the Spurs box, but main story coming out of that is Spurs drop points yet again, so they are now down into, I believe, 5th or 6th place.
And no wins in 4 in the Premier League.
In
fact, not winning a Premier League game since they beat Real Madrid.
They don't usually bottle it until April, usually, or they haven't done in the last couple of seasons, but it seems like they're slowly dropping down the pecking order. Anyway, Everton 2, Huddersfield 0. Really good win for Everton, getting Sam Allardyce's career up and running. Goals from Sigurdsson and Calvert-Lewin gave Allardyce.
Did you see that Calvert-Lewin assist?
No.
Oh, mate. Oh, it was filthy. It was a little deft little back heel. It was beautiful.
But credit to Everton. They now sit in 10th place, despite fighting relegation just weeks prior.
That is the Sam Allardyce effect, isn't it?
It just shows how open mid-table is, though, this season. We've talked about how open the Premier League is outside of the top 4, and outside of the top 6, basically. But that middle area of the table is chopping and changing so much recently. And
2 wins and you're in the top half.
I think it's been a great season of football so far.
It's been brilliant.
Yeah.
The Premier League this year has really revitalised. Like, the worst season of Premier League football I've seen ever was the season Leicester won it. I know everyone wants to talk about the fairy tale of it, but it was just awful football.
What points did they finish on? Because I know that was a big talking point.
Well, they finished 10 points clear of the second place.
But they only had mid-70s or something like that.
No, I think it was in the 80s.
Was that? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But it was just poor. There's no big team winning very much. It was, anyway, carry on.
But anyway, obviously Everton moving on from their win against the Rooney hat-trick. What game was that? I can't remember who Everton were facing.
West Ham.
West Ham, yeah. But Rooney's hat-trick, obviously, was the main talking point from that match, and his goal from his own half was quite the highlight. But anyway, Brighton 1, Liverpool 5, the biggest scoring game of the weekend. Liverpool's attack was running rampant. Goals from Emre Can, Coutinho, and an own goal by Lewis Dunk. And
his third of the season.
As well as 2 goals from Firmino gave Liverpool a very comfortable win. Lots of strength and attack. The front 3 and 4, or 3 or 4, I guess you could argue, in that Liverpool lineup worked together extremely well, I think.
They did.
And the one thing that's changed for them this season is that they rotate in the squad a lot more. So they've not necessarily putting in whole different front threes in games. What they're doing is like bringing out Sané, putting Coutinho in with Salah, or bringing out Firmino and then starting in a like Sturridge or something like that. So they're sort of interchanging different players in different positions so that they can keep fitness, because obviously they've got a really hectic January schedule against them.
And Gini Wijnaldum started at centre back and they only conceded 1 goal.
Well,
there we are. So Klopp's a magic worker.
Well, apart from his actual defenders, who he's yet to work magic on. Anyway,
there's only so much you can do with Moreno and Lovren in defence.
Well, honest. I mean, it was a defensive error that led to Huddersfield's only goal.
Brighton's only goal. The penalty. It was a penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But they definitely deserved to score before that. Glenn Murray missed an absolute sitter. In fairness, it was a good save from Simon Mignolet, and then Liverpool went straight down the other end and less than a minute later scored.
Yeah, well, like I said, January is a very crucial month for Liverpool with so many fixtures. Last year, or this year, we should say January 2017, they only got 1 win in 9 games in January 2017. So it's a big period coming up for Liverpool now. They've been starting to gain a lot of momentum. Mohamed Salah's had a fantastic season so far, obviously still head of the top goal scorers table with 12 goals at the moment. I think he's on the form of his career. He had a fantastic season last year for Roma, but I think he is doing his best work at the moment with Liverpool, which is...
Oh, definitely.
So, given the praise, because we've been very critical of Liverpool on the podcast so far this season, but I think the main thing you can praise Liverpool for is their attacking prowess. They've got a fantastic attack at the moment.
People talk about as well, like how many chances that he wastes, but I mean, he's taken 54 shots in comparison to Harry Kane, and you don't hear anyone say about Harry Kane wasting shots, do you?
No, but I mean...
Well, how many has Harry Kane taken?
Harry Kane's taken 80 shots.
But he's only got 9 or 10 goals.
He's on 10 goals.
10 goals, yeah.
And Salah's taken how many, sorry?
Taken 54 shots and scored 12 goals.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. I like that stat a lot.
But I do really rate Mohamed Salah. I think he's a quality player.
I thought when he came that he'd do bits because, he's a fast winger. They needed someone that wasn't Mane to do a similar job to Mane, and he has done that, and he's played really well.
And he made a really good assist the Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll go into Sunday's results. Obviously, we're skipping over the Arsenal Man United game because we will get into that eventually. Starting off with Bournemouth 1, Southampton 1, the South Coast derby, so to speak. Ryan Fraser opened the scoring with his first goal since January. Charlie Austin equalises, scoring his 3rd goal in only 2 starts this season. I really rate Charlie Austin. I think he's a great player.
Yeah, I slated, I think it was Alan Smith on commentary. He said that Charlie Austin took that as a real striker's finish. Well, he is a striker, so any finish that he does is a striker's finish.
It was a really good first time finish.
It was
I
really good.
will give him that, but he's on 4 league goals so far this season.
And then again, I also slated, I don't know who was in commentary for the Man City game for comparing Otamendi's finish to a striker's finish. I was like, what does that even mean? He's a defender.
Anyway, we've talked about Charlie Austin and how good he was in his final season for QPR. He was certainly the bright spark that came from that QPR side, despite them getting relegated, and he was sort of on lockdown. They weren't letting him move at all, so he had a reasonable spell in the Championship, I believe, where he wasn't getting games. But then he did obviously get the move to Southampton. It's good to see him doing so well at Southampton. Anyway, the big game from Sunday, Man City 2, West Ham 1. I thought it was a really good performance from West Ham's perspective, I was
very surprised. David Moyes, he put out a very rotated team who had no Carroll, no Hernandez even in the team because they were both injured.
It was a really weird formation they used as well, because they did do 3 at the back with Zabaleta and I think it was Cresswell on the left, I'm not too sure. But they had 4 players in midfield. And then there was Antonio up front on his own.
It was actually 5. It's a 3-5-2. But you got the number 10 playing behind the striker.
Oh, okay.
So you had like...
Was it Lanzini up front? Because
Lanzini and
had a good
Antonio was up front.
And
Kouyaté came off the bench. Came on the... What am I trying to say?
Kouyaté went off injured.
Yeah, he got subbed
Sacco
off.
Came on.
But he was kind of playing in between... the flat in midfield and then in front of them.
Yeah.
But he obviously had to come off, so Diafra Sakho came on instead. But 18-year-old Declan Rice came on, started the game. That was his only 3rd Premier League appearance, I think, and he played really well.
Yeah.
Booked early on, so he had to be cautious with his tackling, and he was. I thought he did himself really proud. Adrian had an amazing
fantastic game.
And
He made
now,
loads of really great
I
saves.
don't think Joe Hart should be recalled now.
No, I think Adrian had it was a fantastic display from despite the result. He saved some really crucial shots on target, like that De Bruyne free kick. He saved a couple of Leroy Sané's chances as well. There were some really, really good shots that were going in on target, but Adrian seemed to pie them all off.
And if it wasn't for another Spanish keeper, he probably would have had the team of the week in terms of
anyway,
goalkeeper.
Interesting points to make from the starting 11 from Man City. Fernandinho and company were benched after being risk of bans, probably saving them for the Manchester derby, which we'll talk about in a bit, I'm sure. Fabian Delph and Eliquium Mangala came in. City conceded a goal early on through an Ogbonna header, just on the stroke of half-time, which is just what West Ham needed and wanted. They wanted to go into that first half either not conceding or definitely scoring a goal, so they were doing really well there. But Otamendi then equalised for City, getting his 4th in the campaign so far. It was a great run from Gabriel Jesus to tee it up for him. City then came back as David Silva bagged the winner in the 83rd minute.
That was a great finish as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it was a really good finish. Man City's 3rd 2-1 result in a row now. And I think they're now 2nd behind Manchester United in scoring the most goals past the 80th minute, with I think 9. Oof. And then Man United are on 11, I believe. But like I said, a fantastic display from Adrian to keep out those goals, because it could have easily been 3 or 4-1.
Yeah. It was a title-winning performance, wasn't it? Because teams like Man City, they haven't been down this season. It wasn't until their last game. Who did they play? Someone needs to remind me. I completely forgot. But that was like the first time in like 10 games they had been losing. Now obviously this is their 2nd time in 2 games that they've been losing, and they still came back. They came back and won both games.
Was it against Southampton?
That's right, yeah. So that's 13 wins in a row, equaling the Premier League record, which was actually set last year by Chelsea. So, we already knew that Man City were going to walk the league after their performances earlier in the season, and, this just kind of...
That'll all come down to this Sunday, though.
True. Before we get onto that, I did have this little bit of trivia that I wanted to throw your way. Only 2 Bournemouth players, obviously before the South Coast derby, had ever scored against Southampton in the Premier League. It was Jermaine Defoe and who else?
Is it a really random player?
It is.
Is it a goalkeeper?
Yes.
Begovic,
It's Begovic.
I thought it was, yeah.
Oh, with that, I remember that goal. That was an amazing goal.
When he was playing for Stoke,
yeah. But it was really positive passages of play from West Ham in the first half. I thought they had a really good first half against Man City, but are cracks starting to show for City? Because you'd think at home against West Ham they'd put the game to bed a lot more than they did. And
of course,
like I said, this is their 3rd 2-1 result in a row. They've definitely been grinding out results a lot more in recent weeks. Do you think that this shows the strength of City, or do you think it shows that they're starting to crack a little bit under the pressure?
Well, the odds were equal for Man City to win 8-0 as it was for West Ham to win 1-0. So that kind of shows how massive underdogs West Ham were going into this.
Yeah.
You could argue that we're getting a bit carried away. Man City didn't exactly play brilliantly against Southampton, did they?
No.
Only just won it because of an 88th minute winner from Raheem Sterling, who I thought had a really good game against West Ham. What I should say is that you could argue that cracks are beginning to show, but they're still 13 games unbeaten.
Yeah.
Or 13 games winning in a row, 14 games.
13 wins in a row, yeah, that's right.
If cracks were beginning to show, they would have dropped points by now.
You think?
I would think that. Someone like David Moyes coming to the Etihad, I mean, sure, he may not be the greatest manager in the world, but he's done it more than a few times before. He could probably, if on another day, West Ham could have taken a point from that game, for sure. But they still bottled it. And I thought that by the end of the game, West Ham were tired. They looked beaten before the goal had even gone in. Whereas Man City still looked energised. They still looked up for it. And that goal was coming 20, 30 minutes before it went in.
Well, for me, this season, and I'm not reinventing the wheel with this statement, but this season revolves heavily around this Sunday's fixtures, with obviously the Manchester derby being taken place at Old Trafford. Lots of spanners have been thrown in the works in the build-up to that game. Obviously, you've got the Pogba red card that we'll get onto in a little bit, meaning that he's out. You've got Ibrahimovic potentially coming back in. You've got loads of different news regarding the squad. But I think every team that's not Man City will be rooting for United. Because if United get 3 points against Man City this weekend, then it's game on. The title is still open for everyone.
That's true, but that is still it's still a 5-point gap.
But
it's still big.
It's doable over, however, I think it's 23, or it would be 22 games left after this weekend. So I do think a lot of teams will be rooting for Manchester United this weekend. But if Man City do win this game comfortably, like say it's a 3-0 or 3-1 or something like that, then that just puts that to bed. Man City will be winning the league hands down.
Another derby that's happening next week is the Merseyside derby. We got a great draw in the FA Cup for that as well.
Yeah.
It'll be equal, but it'll be the Merseyside derby again. 3 of them this season.
Super Sunday's definitely living up to the name this week. I'm really looking forward to this week of football.
Amazing. But the point I was going to make was that, we were looking at this game thinking, 2 weeks ago, oh God, Liverpool are going to literally trounce them 8-0. Because if there's been a team that's been worse defensively than West Ham, well, then it's been probably Everton. And if there's a team that's been better than Man City going forward, it's probably been Liverpool.
Yeah.
So we were expecting a lot. But now Sam Allardyce, what he does clean sheets. He's turned Ashley Williams around in 2 games. God knows how he's done that. And bear in mind, he's only been in charge for 1 of them. 2 clean sheets in his technically in his reign, and 6 goals. So I think the Merseyside derby could actually be really interesting.
It'll be a really good game. I'll 100% be chilling out this Sunday, just watching football all day. It'll be a great day. But anyway, we'll get into the big game of the weekend, and we did steer away from this when it was coming up with Saturday's results, but the big game of the weekend was Arsenal against Manchester United at the Emirates Stadium. Manchester United winning 3-1. The reason why we're including it this late on is because if you haven't kept an eye out on the Twitter and the YouTube, we have been we did record a reactions video, highlights of our reactions to watching the game live. We did get together and watch it. It was a great experience. I had a really good time. It was really fun.
We should do it more. I've got to say also as well, thank you for the response to that. We put it up, it was Sunday morning, and it's already our highest viewed video on the YouTube channel, so I'm very appreciative of that.
We will hope to be doing that a lot more soon.
Absolutely.
But what we'll do is, instead of talking the game, because we do get into a little bit of analysis after the game, we'll just let us take it away, really, with the video of our reactions to Arsenal vs Man United. So we'll see you in a bit.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the In Off the Post podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this In Off the Post special and interlude. Today, we're going to be reacting to the Arsenal versus Man United game. I'm obviously here, as usual, with Ross Dawson.
Hello.
And Liam Thomas.
There's an Arsenal badge under all these clothes.
As you can probably tell, they're Man United and Arsenal supporters. So this is going to be interesting, especially for me, because I have no emotional investment to this. So I'm going to be laughing at whoever loses. So we're just going to cut the clips up at the important times. So
bit of pre-match thoughts.
Oh.
How do you reckon it's going to go down? Well, obviously the front three, we didn't expect Lacazette to start, but he was announced in the lineup. So, I mean, I want to say that we'll score goals with those front three, but it depends on Man United setup.
Well, that's the thing. It's away at the Emirates. The squad's been announced that it's a back 3. Will it be a back 5? Will Jose park the bus? We'll have to see. Me and Liam have an agreement where if Ashley Young scores a screamer at this game, he's going to owe me 15 pints.
and I will be a witness to this.
Not necessarily at the same time, just 15 accumulative pints. So we're going to shake on that.
Okay, that's fine. Bev can judge whether it's a scream or not. I'm
so
assuming that he's going to score as well.
Oh, go on. Send him. Come on. Yes! Come on! We don't even have to cut any of that. You could just like have it from the handshake.
They won't now that they're in the league though.
That's a good ball. Another assist for Pogba though. Oh, Collapse must have been good finish.
I mean, yeah, but Czech should have better. What do you think?
Well, I think Monreal has to dive for this. The guy's got to dive.
To get Meg,
He's got to dive.
Oh, come on!
Oh no, Jesse!
Oh my god! What a goal!
I would have given you that. That was a
2-0.
How much have we all slated Jesse Lingard? He's actually in great form. He's unbelievable at the moment.
He was great in number 10 against Watford. That's how we need to set out. Have a number 10, then have Martial and Lukaku playing off each other.
That's quality pressing though. Lingard made
I told you, high press. Arsenal crumble and a great ball from Lukaku as well, but even better from Martial.
Liam, I'm so sorry.
That's too easy, that though. That is too easy, that.
How much space Lukaku's in?
Why is he there?
Oh my
Why
god!
is he getting past Ramsey like that?
Oh,
good ball though, good ball. Lukaku offers so much more than just goals, even though he hasn't scored in 10 weeks or something like that. Well, no, he has scored in 10 weeks, but yeah.
he scored quite recently, but it was his first goal in a while.
Yeah. Did he bring on a Wilby for Mustafi?
Well, I was about to say, why is Iwobi on the field?
He must have.
I didn't pay it. Come on!
Oh! Oh, he's got a little knob on the end of his hair now. When did that happen?
It's awful.
Yeah, he does well, Lacazette. He's alert, isn't he? It's
What's
Rocco and
his
Lacazette. I think Lacazette gets
That's
a
a
touch.
solid header from.
Oh, come on! He
He
fucking choke slams
anything
him.
about it.
I'll just double check this.
Look, is he?
Perfect angle. They've been
Oh,
dangerous,
give
haven't they?
over.
Arsenal free kick with the usual two over it. Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez. It's in by Alexis Sanchez. It's not a bad ball.
Oh!
Good save.
Come on!
Good save.
Get out the way!
Now Lauren Koscielny. Pogba has a nibble.
Oh, this is
How did that stay out?
This is a
What a
joke.
save by David De Gea. Iwobi's ball.
Oh!
Lacazette.
Oh!
Oh my
Oh, come on! You just can't get shot through!
Saves and defensive blocks we've seen in the first half by United. Look at this one.
Well, there's the first one. This is just off Lukaku.
I didn't even know he was off.
Well, there we are.
What a goal, how we finish!
Back past me.
You know for the fact that would be the only way that we're going to score past them today is Lukaku scored. Trying to bice it away.
And it is half time. It's 2-0 to Man United. We did not see this coming.
I didn't at all, no.
Not as open as it
Out the
is.
gates flying. Granted, it is 2-0, but Arsenal have been very, very high pressing.
They have been really good. I think you take those two errors out of
The
it.
fact that you haven't scored in the first half,
Oh, it's a joke.
but then it's a massive compliment to the United defence because there were some fantastic blocks in there. The biggest chance for Arsenal so far was a deflection from Lukaku.
Which forced. I mean,
A
De
brilliant
Gea's made
deflection.
at least two quality saves.
Yeah, he has.
But I think the second goal was a really well worked goal. The
Oh, it was a really nice goal. I'll give you that.
the little touch from Martial to set Lingard off, and Lingard's finishing has been quality in the last couple of games. I mean, he had that, I wouldn't say world-level performance, but it was definitely a man of the match performance, I'd say, against Watford when he bagged in 2 goals. But anyway,
What's your, how do you think the game will end?
I reckon it'll be 3-1.
You think so?
Arsenal will get one back, and it'll scare United a bit. But I think much like the Watford
I
game,
was gonna say
they'll put
similar.
it to bed. I think.
Exactly. Right. Well, get on to the second half.
Oh!
Let's go.
Oh, he's offside. Gotta be offside.
Oh. Yes! The boy! Yes! I don't know if it was offside or not. Yes! Come on!
Talk us through that because
Yes!
we literally didn't see it.
I didn't know what happened. That ball, I said, watch the ball. It's those runs from Ramsey, so.
Oh, he's on the side.
Look at that. Yes.
Ozil, he wove it.
Get the back of his head.
He's trying to press it from there.
Sanchez in the
Oh! Oh!
What a save!
This is mad. This is mad.
Just as I made my return.
This
as
is
well.
madness.
The 22 players are completely ignored and every instruction the manager's telling them to off the... Talk about saying defensive getting a block.
Oh.
On the other end as well. Oh no, Lingard should have scored there.
It really is. I think someone's put a...
Martial should have scored
He
that
was
as
the
well.
only one who was running through.
Karki's left to Lingard was
Play that
nice,
wide.
offers up
They're going
supporting him.
to play it right now.
Here is Paul Pogba, Maurice Koscielny gets across.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh!
Yes! Come on!
Lingard's got two.
3-1.
Ain't that challenging?
Oh, come on!
And that's a foul.
That's not allowed.
If we get lagged, does that happen? So I don't know if it stays.
Andre Marin's going to interpret this.
United States.
Ashley pleads the case of Paul Pogba.
Well, if it was ready, we would have booked him by now.
Looks as if he's going to send them off, I think. Ashley Young's ran over to Mourinho.
Oh!
Said
He
so.
is!
There you go.
As it.
Oh, this is only
As it.
17 minutes.
Well, there's the twist. Ironic and forced.
Oh, okay. So he's going to get fined for that.
That's the big moment, isn't it, for the referee?
As it.
Andre Marin once again has got it right. I said he's having a good game.
Oh.
Okay, you know what? That's a red card. I'll give him that.
Nasty.
Oh,
Ah.
has done well right through Aaron Ramsey. He saw that, hasn't he? That is nasty.
He's seen it through Aaron Ramsey.
The left as well. Leg goes in, watch the left.
Right, so that's full time. 3-1 in the end. So Ross's half-time prediction was right. So,
Exactly right.
So congratulations.
Thank you very
Although
much.
Ashley Young didn't score a
He
banger.
didn't. I'm disappointed. He actually came off for Rashford towards the end.
Overall thoughts of the game?
Okay. I don't think Arsenal deserve to win that. Just purely for the amount of chances you wasted. I mean, the amount of possession you had and the amount of shots that you had and the chances created and stuff like that. And the fact you only scored one goal out of that, I don't think that deserves a win. That just means that you've been quite wasteful, in my opinion. Granted, you put the pressure on quite highly towards the end of the first half and the beginning of the second. But as soon as that third goal went in from Lingard, I think Arsenal just sunk back into their shells. You played very narrow, even though United was set up quite wide in terms of defenders. I mean, we had like 6 players in defence as soon as that Pogba red card. I was fully expecting the Pogba red card to change the game, but it really didn't.
Thoughts on it? Was it right?
I think it made it worse for us, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It made you more defensive, effectively.
Well, I mean,
That can happen.
it just comes naturally when one of your creative midfielders goes off injured.
We can agree it was a red card though.
It was a red card.
Yeah,
Mm.
and that's huge. That is a
No.
huge.
But I think while United didn't deserve to win 3-1, I think the score is quite outrageous given the game that we just watched.
Yeah.
We were definitely more clinical, definitely more tactically set out. Definitely deserved at least a draw, I think.
I mean, look, it was sort of a performance I was like reminiscent of when we used to play, especially over the years when we played teams that aren't the same stature as Man United, where we'd have that sort of 70% possession, numerous shots on target, and we just can't finish the team off. But I think the difference in this game is even once we did breach your defence, obviously we had De Gea to get past as well, and
De Gea was my man of the match.
That double save.
Jesse Lingard got the official man of the match, but that
crazy.
That double save was one of the best double saves I've ever seen.
Any other goalkeeper in the Premier League? I don't want to say the world because I think there are some, but certainly Premier League. and you've drawn that game.
Yeah.
The injury to Mustafi in the beginning, did that have a massive effect, or was it just kind of, oh well, that's another thing that went wrong?
Yeah,
I mean,
it didn't help at all. Let's put it that way.
Did Arsenal have any centre backs on the bench?
I don't know. I was
Because
saying I didn't check who was on the
you
bench.
could have brought a
but-
like-for-like replacement on and kept the same system, but you did make that decision to change the system and go back
and we
to
did
four
end
at
up
the back.
being very narrow in the end. I didn't think we were going to pump 6-7 players into the box in each attack, which we ended up doing. And the main problem for us at the moment is that we don't have the players who stay back that have the quality to sort of prevent a counter attack before it starts. You know,
Yeah,
the
it
sort
was
of
the three goals were due to mainly poor defending.
well, you got
You
the
just
ball.
couldn't
You only had
handle
about
it.
2 men, maybe 3 up front, and the back line just going further and further back when we were outnumbering you.
Couple of other points. I think Lindelof deserves a shout out for doing so well
Yeah.
marking Sanchez. I don't think Sanchez got a sniff in that game apart from the cross to Ramsey, which ultimately led to the Arsenal goal.
Yeah,
Did he mean it? Did Ramsey mean it?
No,
Never.
but I
I've
thought
never seen him lift his head.
Lindelof had a
box.
really good defensive display. Other than that, Rojo was Rojo. He committed a few fouls, but ultimately it worked. Other than that, not many talking points really to talk about. Lukaku had another good game without a goal. He's obviously.
I thought he played well.
He set up
movement was really good.
He set up the first 2 goals were as a result of Lukaku setting up play because he passed it to, I think, did he pass it straight to Martial? Or
Yeah, he passed it to Martial.
he passed it to Martial, who left the touch on for Lingard. So I think Lukaku has been playing well. He just needs to score more goals. But
when you got players doing, I mean, Jesse Lingard, I don't think he's going to score 2 goals every game. But when you got players around him who can score,
yeah,
it's not a crisis
I mean,
situation.
having Martial and Rashford playing off of him, there's a lot worse scenarios to be in. As long as you got
And with Ibra to come back as well.
exactly. I mean, it's not like we haven't got players elsewhere in our squad who can't score goals. I mean, Martial's scored a couple of goals. Lingard's obviously on, I think, 5 now. Rashford's on a couple.
But when you're coming up against teams who know that Lukaku isn't scoring and they know they can prevent him from scoring, so it seems, I think in the long run, especially against teams like Manchester City, will definitely be a problem for you.
Yeah. But one thing to take out from my perspective in terms of Arsenal is you need to keep that 3 at the back formation. You need to have bodies, like big bodies in defence, because Monreal and Koscielny, that it doesn't intimidate me when I look at the team sheet, that centre back partnership. I mean, we've criticised Arsenal's choice to play a left back at centre back, but I mean, at least he's playing a left sided centre back role. But now he's got the responsibilities of being at the back.
Well, I said it
centre-back
before on the
partnership.
podcast, and I mean, you two slated me slightly for it when I said that not that I give Monreal away, but I said because everyone says how much of an unsung hero he is. But I think the fact that he is called an unsung hero shows how much our defence has deteriorated over the years, and the fact that we're now calling a left back who plays at centre back is our unsung hero, which shouldn't be the case for our club.
That game 100% epitomises that point, and I'm starting to agree with you. Anything else to add?
I think Arsenal did well in attack. They definitely got a lot of attacking opportunities in there, but the points that we've made of them trying to pass it into the net, they really need to stop doing that. Because I think the main chance from the game, well, it was a Bellerin strike.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the main.
Well, that and also Lacazette dribbling into the box somehow managed to get 3 yards in front
Yeah,
of the player.
exactly.
Oh, and we also thought the penalty shouts as well. Welbeck when
Oh, of course.
not that it mean too much, but the Welbeck one was a penalty.
It would have made it 3-2.
There was in the Lacazette one afterwards. I think because paying too much attention, I didn't really want to show on that one. They didn't show many replays, but again, he just got taken off the ball. But
Welbeck definitely.
oh well,
That was
yeah.
definitely a foul.
The officials did have a good game though, I think.
Other than that,
Yeah.
yeah, they did.
They did really well given the game, because it was a mental game to watch.
That was a really good game of football for our first reactions
yeah.
as well.
Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this as a standalone video, then make sure to look out for the podcast on Tuesday. I'm sure it's going to be a very good one. It always is. And if you're watching this as an interlude, then back to us in the studio.
back.
Thank you to me for throwing that back to us.
But anyway, just one more thing I'd like to add, because obviously news has emerged since Saturday night that Manchester United will not appeal Pogba's red card, so he will in fact be out for 3 games, meaning that he does miss the Manchester derby, and rightfully so. It's good to see clubs respecting referees' decisions.
Yeah, as you'll see, or would have seen by now, in our reaction, we all thought immediately in real time there was no way that was a red card. Then after watching that replay, it was a bad one. It was a
really bad challenge, really clumsy. But I still think there was no intent in there. I mean,
it doesn't need to be intent when you're stamping.
No, but I mean, you can.
Thigh.
His eyes were on the ball, and I don't think Pogba was stupid enough to do that intentively. But hey ho, a red card is a red card. He will miss 3 games in the league, which does pain me so much. Because
did you see he sort of had a little tussle with Mourinho on the line before the challenge, which the pundits looked into, which said it potentially could have influenced him when he actually.
And he hasn't been punished for the sarcastic applause as he went off the pitch as well, because it wasn't in the referee's report. So
fantastic! So you have Lukaku not being punished for kicking out, and now this as well.
Man United bias constantly. Howard Webb's back at it again, even though he's not a referee anymore. No, let's be honest. The sarcastic clapping, there was not any malicious intent. It probably wasn't necessary. It didn't need to happen. But I don't see why he should be punished for it.
No,
he wasn't squaring up to the referee and doing it in his face.
And he wasn't doing what countless players do, like crowding the referee and like making the card gestures that frustrates me so much.
Yeah, I don't I see that either.
I'm all for respecting the referee, but it's a big game. You can tell Pogba's a very passionate player, so he was a very frustrated man at that point, I could tell. So while I would understand why he would receive an extended ban as a result of his sarcastic applause, I think it would have been quite unnecessary, considering that sort of punishing United enough that he's out for 3 games. I mean, a couple of weeks ago on the show, I outlined the stats with and without Pogba, and it's quite bleak as a United fan.
It really is, actually.
Almost goals per game, chances per game are doubled with Pogba, and our win percentage is like over 80%, and without it's like 57, something like that. So,
off topic from Man United, we'll talk a little bit about Arsenal. How did they not do better? How did they not get at least a point? Here's some stats for you. Man United had their lowest possession in the Premier League, 24.9%. Their fewest number of passes, 222. They faced the highest number of shots, 33, and blocked the most number of shots, 12. All since records began in 2003.
And Ross said they didn't park the bus.
Well,
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did either. They
didn't attack with more than about 2 players every time. No, how's that not parking the bus?
It was a counter attack because Arsenal were pressing so ferociously and so they were really quick, and they attacked a load. So naturally, you're going to stay in defence and hit them on the counter attack.
So we parked your bus in a sense.
You did, yeah, okay. Essentially.
I'll take that.
Because it was the record number of shots. It was the record number of shots in a game with 33 or something like that, I believe. I'm not 100% sure.
It wasn't a Premier League high, but it was one.
It was a ridiculous amount, and it brought out the highest number of saves in a Premier League game ever with David De Gea, who made like 14
I think it was
the
highest number of shots on target in a game. I think that's where you probably got that from.
But I think Arsenal just weren't clinical enough. I mean, what
they had their chances. What you meant
to do when
3 shots, 16 on target.
What are you meant to do when a team attacks you that much though? Are you meant to just like keep pushing out and coming back on defence, or do you stay in defence knowing that they've been pressing you highly for the last 70 minutes or so?
Well, I think there was a stat from the game saying that Lukaku, I think, won the most aerial duels in the match, which you expected. But how can you win that many aerial duels and you still have such a low amount of possession? You didn't have bodies forward. He's essentially winning aerial duels to nobody.
But that stat would imply that they were just playing hoofball, which they weren't.
No.
No, they weren't. That's true.
I don't think Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal didn't deserve the win. I don't think United deserved that much of a win either. It's just
I actually thought Arsenal deserved the win more than United did, but I can see, like tactically, Mourinho completely outplayed Wenger, and you can see that. A draw, I think, would have been a fairer result, but then I think United fans would have definitely felt hard done by, and rightly so.
I mean, it's 3-1 at the end of the day. People can sing the praises of David De Gea, and he did have a world-class performance with the amount of saves and the nature of the saves that he made as well. But David De Gea didn't score 3 goals.
Also, can we not get carried away and call him the best goalkeeper in the world? Neuer's out injured. He can't speak for himself. It's unfair.
Any other goalkeeper, and we beat you in that game without a doubt.
That's what I said. Any other goalkeeper in the Premier
not
League.
Not even a draw. Especially once Pogba had gone as well, I think we'd have...
Even if you had Neil Etheridge in goal.
Anyway,
most of them are clean sheets in the Championship.
We'll move on from the results and roundup, because otherwise I could talk about that game for a while, and we've already talked about it enough on the highlights.
And as much as I would love to talk about Swansea, as they're currently bottom of the table, in fact we're doing a whole show about that on Thursday. Keep an eye out for that on the YouTube channel. It should be up on the weekend. I'm very much looking forward to recording that. I think you'll like it too.
Yes, me and Bev will be venturing our ways down to Swansea to record that for you. So make sure you keep an eye out and respect the hustle that we're making. Anyway, we'll get on.
Respect the hustle.
Respect
Put
the
some
hustles.
respect on my name.
Anyway, we'll get into the news stories of this week. Emerging yesterday was Mark Clattenburg. And in an interview with the NBC's Men in Blazers podcast, referring to the Spurs-Chelsea game in 2016, he said he allowed Spurs to self-destruct, so all the media, all the people in the world went, Tottenham lost the title, so make it... Because, as a bit of context, the game could have easily seen 3 or 4 Spurs players be sent off. Because it's
being kind, yeah.
It's been widely dubbed as the Battle of the Bridge because sparks were flying in that game.
Nathan Dyer deserved 2 red cards by himself for 1 challenge. It was awful. There was bodies being flown everywhere. Didn't Cesc Fabregas get flung over the advertising board as well?
Maybe Diego Costa was involved. Harry Kane was involved. Anyway,
Dyer and Ali as well. It was awful.
So the gist of the story is that Mark Clattenburg purposely didn't send Spurs players off.
I'll read the exact quote. It says, as Ross mentioned, I allowed Spurs to self-destruct, so the media, all the people in the world, went, Spurs lost the league. If I sent 3 of them off, what are the headlines? Clattenburg cost Spurs the title. It was pure theatre that Tottenham self-destructed against Chelsea and Leicester won the title. What he's saying is, as you very rightly said, he didn't send players off on purpose so that he wouldn't get the attention.
But I mean, he did it so that Spurs would be the ones that would lose the title for themselves and not blame Clattenburg for sending 3 of their players off, basically. I mean, this game was the game that gifted Leicester the title, basically, because we've been notorious in saying that this is the season that Spurs came 3rd in a 2-horse race, which is when Arsenal clinched 2nd on the final day, which was a madness.
Yeah, Spurs lost 5-1 to an already relegated Newcastle that year. I won't let that go.
But anyway, when asked if he helped to script the game, he replied, "He helped the game. The game certainly benefited from his style of refereeing. Some referees would have played by the book. Tottenham would have been down to 7 or 8 players and probably lost, and they'd been looking for an excuse. But I didn't give them an excuse because my game plan was let them lose the title." So
that is shocking. Now, very well, I won't deny that there's probably referees out there thinking exactly the same thing, but to admit it is shite.
I mean, it's a good thing he's done it now because obviously he's no longer refereeing in England. He's setting up some refereeing school in Qatar or something like that, I think, or he's been in Dubai. Either way, he's not refereeing in England anymore. Yeah. So him coming out to admitting this, does this make you question the morality and the nature of the morals of refereeing in English football?
Well, we always think that Mike Dean, don't we, that he likes the headlines on himself. You know, we always say that the man of the match was Mike Dean or whatever. But to be honest, this season Mike Dean's been pretty good. I haven't seen an instance where he, you know,
I think officials in general so far this season, there hasn't really been one major incident where you think, oh, that's totally changed the nature of a game.
There's been a lot of little ones. For sure. I'm not a massive fan of how the FA have dealt with things retroactively. Especially the diving thing has not really become too enforced.
It's a bit of a catch-22 with diving because, well, I think a lot of people think that diving depends on like the position of the pitch and stuff like that, and the nature is, if you don't book a player for diving in their own half, would you book them in the penalty area and vice versa?
Well, it's annoying because if a referee doesn't give a yellow card for diving, which he should, then but does give a foul, then the relevant authorities can't retrospectively ban somebody because you haven't decepted the official, which I think is wrong.
But going back to the Clattenburg scenario, does this make you think that some referees do consciously twist the outcome of a game? That the fact that they're not 100% thinking of, well, this is what I need to do as a referee, I need to be totally neutral, I need to just award what I see in front of me, or do you think that they consciously think about the scenario of a game, they consciously think about what's going on in the game, and they adjust their decisions to that?
Well, the rules in football aren't politics, they're not law. You don't go and interpret it the way that you want to. They're written. And I suppose you could argue that, the laws are there in football are there to be interpreted, but they shouldn't be. They should be very much strict and put across all games.
Can you see Clattenburg receiving action by the FA as a punishment?
No, because he's not employed by them anymore.
Well, it says here on the BBC article, Clattenburg is no longer part of the Professional Game Match Officials Board, which provides all the referees for top-flight matches, and it will not be commenting on his remarks. So it seems like it's all going to be swept under the carpet.
And FIFA will not take action on just a singular referee talking about this either, because it's not big enough.
But anyway, we'll move on from that topic.
It's quite bleak, isn't it?
It's quite a bleak topic.
It's really sad because I actually, believe it or not, had a lot of respect for Mark Clattenburg. I thought he was a good referee.
I thought he handled a lot of big games really well compared to other officials. Definitely,
that was always a smudge on his career, that game. And but actually, I'll give massive props to the Men in Blazers podcast. I hadn't actually heard of it until now. But getting him on as a guest and asking about it is brilliant. That was quite.
It was a brilliant story, a great scoop for them. So well done to the Men in Blazers podcast.
Notice us.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next news story. During the midweek games in the Premier League last week, there was a massive talking point amongst sports broadcasters, football fans in general. It's the incident involving Pep Guardiola and Nathan Redmond following the Southampton Manchester City game, which City obviously won 2-1 in the end. So if you're somehow not caught up with the events after the game, Pep Guardiola went up to Nathan Redmond and he seemed very animated and very pushy in a way, in the nature of him. He seemed to be shouting at Redmond and pushing him around and stuff like that. And this caused a massive uproar. He seemed really aggressive. But in the post-match interview, or in the it was in a press at a later date, I believe, I'm not too sure. But Pep came out and said that he was singing the praises of Nathan Redmond and that he was frustrated because Southampton were implementing very defensive tactics and not allowing City to play football, and that he criticised Pellegrino's tactics of making Redmond defend because he knew that in the previous season Redmond was really great in attacking against Man City. Mm-hmm. So he was basically praising Nathan Redmond and asking him or telling him that he shouldn't be playing this style of football because he's too good for it.
A few points to take away from this. One, it's none of your business, Pep. Until you sign him, which I'm pretty sure, judging by this, you're probably wanting to. Is it me, or is that's what it feels like? It's none of your business how Manuel Pellegrino decides. Both of them, I suppose. Decides to put out his team. I do think that Nathan Redmond's a fantastic player going forward. If he's playing as a defensive winger, well then let him. That's what happens. That's what a manager wants from him. That's what he'll do.
But anyway, Nathan Redmond did in fact come out on social media stating that what Pep said was essentially true. He was just praising him, giving him compliments and stuff like that. But this did spark the debate of, was Pep pushing his lines? Was he right, or was he right, but was he within his rights, should I say, to approach Redmond after the game and talk to him the way he did? Or do you think that he was overstepping his boundaries?
No, I don't think he should have done it. I think partially it may have been a bit of frustration because he clearly wanted Redmond to play the way that he thought Redmond was going to play, and that's how he would have set his game plan out. So he's gone over to him and he shouted, "Why didn't you kind of play the way I thought you were going to play?" And that was really bad. He shouldn't have done that. Bear in mind, that was probably the first time this season that Man City had looked a bit shaky.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a lot of frustration, a lot of emotions coming into it. But The Sun released an article where they got a professional lip reader to, lip read, believe it or not, what Pep Guardiola said. And she claimed that let's say that he used expletives during this tirade, one that was descriptive rather than just, a verb or whatever. And I was very, very confused because, A, he clearly didn't. I know what this... I'm not going to say the word. I know what this word looks like when you say it, and he didn't. But also, why does that matter?
People swearing on football pitches is a bad thing.
Exactly. Well, it certainly exists, but why are we acting like it doesn't?
Try going to a football game and sitting in the stands. I'm sure they'll educate you on expletives.
I'm sure you'll hear some very inappropriate things about the referee's mother. I will tell you that for certain.
But I've got to agree with you. I think there's certainly better ways to go about complimenting a player and criticising the team's performance. I think he should have just maybe huddled him and talked about it more privately, certainly, because I think, I don't understand how Pep can have the mentality of going to do that and not expecting backlash.
No, you're right, and the main problem is that if he wants to, say to him, that he's a good player, then do it in your post-match presser.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna see it, so I don't understand why you had to go up to it, or just put your arm around him and go, "Thought you played well today, mate, but I wish you'd, fulfilled your potential a little bit more and gone forward a bit." You don't need to go over to a bloke and scream in his face.
I mean, I've heard countless people defending his actions, saying that it's a mark of respect, and if you were in Nathan Redmond's shoes, then you'd be flattered that Pep Guardiola was complimenting your performance. But I think it's such a weird situation, because I mean, if you look at it in the way that it drew attention away from City's shaky performance, then it by all means worked, because no one was talking about City's performance after that game. They were talking about the post-match incident with Redmond and Pep Guardiola. And
if he did that, then that's genius.
Yeah.
but I don't think he's that clever.
It was just not a lack of respect, because clearly he was respecting Nathan Redmond, but it was very disrespectful, the manner in which he did it. And I think,
if you're going to do it again, Pep, do it a bit more civilly and don't do it so animated. I know that you like to get yourself put up, and built up, I should say, for the game. He said that before, and there are plenty of animated managers in the Premier League, Klopp, Conte. Just don't scream in players' faces, especially when they're not your own.
No.
Yeah,
anyway, do you have anything to add on that, Liam? Do you have any contrasting opinions to me and Bev?
No, not really. I was going to throw just one or two quick stories away because we're not doing too bad for time before you move on to the FA Cup draws. It says here, Sky Sports, Watford is set to beat RB Leipzig and Napoli in a race to sign highly rated Swedish goalkeeper Pontus Dahlberg. Don't know if any of you have heard of him.
Who does he play for, do you know?
He plays for Gothenburg in their season. I think it's just finished, but he's 18 years old. Apparently it's a 2.9 million move, but he's featured for Sweden at under 17, under 19 and under 21, but is yet to feature for the senior team. And then,
do Watford need any more goalkeepers?
I don't know.
Though?
I was just thinking they've got Aurelio Gomez.
Aurelio Gomez has been fantastic this season, and they just brought in that Udinese keeper, the Greek one.
And he's really good.
But it's interesting that Watford have beat RB Leipzig and Napoli in the race to sign him.
If Watford have beaten him, that's impressive, because RB Leipzig, they take young players and 18-year-olds and turn them into world beaters. If I were him, I'd go to RB Leipzig personally.
Yeah, I would as well.
Yeah.
He'd certainly get more game time, because I imagine he'd just be the third choice goalkeeper at the moment.
Probably second, to be fair.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, Napoli, they obviously they're flying high so far this season.
But I don't think
mind you, Inter Milan have just taken over them in terms of leaders in Serie A. But
I don't think that Napoli's academy is famous for being that.
No,
Well.
but they still have Pepe Reina in goal. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Is that they definitely have a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and
moving on.
then just one more was that 2 hours ago on the BBC website, it says Welsh football's governing body has ruled out the prospect of an Englishman being named the next Welsh manager.
What?
And then it gets worse. It says the FA Wales chief executive Jonathan Ford said, "We've always favoured Welsh people because arguably the passion is there." Is there not a little dig at
half our
English
squad's
people?
English.
Yeah, but
In fact, more than half our squad's English.
he went on to
as
say,
Talk Sport will have you, will kindly remind
It's
you
true.
of.
The only English Euro semi-finalists out there are all Welsh. Anyway,
but he went on to say, somebody said this earlier. Yeah, Welsh most definitely, foreign possibly, but definitely not English.
Give Tony Pulis the job already.
I guess that makes sense.
Just please give Tony Pulis the
Yeah,
job
that's
already.
the only sort of
Anyway,
news.
last night was the FA Cup draw for the third round.
The long awaited. I've been looking forward to this one.
Lots of great fixtures coming out of it as well. We got to shout out Hereford. We know our friend of the podcast, James Thomas, does contribute and write for Balls News. He essentially runs the website, which is a Hereford-based fan website. So shout out to them. They held Fleetwood Town, who were, I think, 83 league places above them or something like that in League One.
They're in League One, aye.
They're in League One. They held them up to a draw away at Fleetwood. So massive shout out to them. So if they beat them in the replay in Hereford, they have the opportunity to play against Leicester City, which is a big result for them, and it's really great for the club because they were hoping for a Premier League fixture to bring in obviously the revenue and stuff like that to the club.
I think they would have preferred it away from home.
Really?
Yeah, they would have earned more money that way. But
Okay.
still, I think they're well done to Hereford. They got the draw they wanted.
They did. Elsewhere, we mentioned earlier the old Merseyside derby, one of the biggest games to come out of this draw actually. Big game. Also another derby, the I want to say Tyne-Wear derby, but Middlesbrough vs Sunderland, another massive game to come out of that. Sticking in Wales, we've got Newport County vs Leeds United. Big game for Newport County. Obviously, Leeds are in the Championship. Newport County in League 2.
Played them in the League Cup as well.
Yeah. Newport County are actually doing quite well in League 2 this season. I think they're like 8th.
Yeah,
something
they
like
actually started off. They were in first after the first 2 game weeks, I think.
Yeah, considering that it was dubbed the Great Escape last season because they were heavily contended for relegation. But it's good to see a Welsh football club.
Well, with 7
also
games to
being
go, I
successful.
think they were 7 points away from safety,
Mm.
and they won quite a few of them. Anyway, that was a great story.
Also, Wolverhampton.
Excuse me. That was a really big cough.
Wolves against Swansea City at Wolves. Wolves are obviously top of the Championship at the moment.
Wolves will beat Swansea.
Swansea City are at the bottom of the Premier League. This was a big thing for me because there's a group chat for all of us on our course. James was in the chat, and a guest that we had, Ben Rogers, big Swansea fan, was also in the chat. We were all talking about the FA Cup draws and stuff like that.
Shout out to Ben. We need you back on, mate.
We do. Anyway, first thing I said to the chat was Wolves are going to do one on Swansea.
They are, and they played last night against Birmingham. I didn't watch the game because I can't put myself through that. I knew Birmingham were going to bottle it, and they did. We desperately need someone to take points off Wolves. And Wolves are just miles better than Swansea. Their squad is better than Swansea.
That's
is.
insane to think about.
Honestly,
really,
it is.
Anyway, some big World Cup draws. Obviously, they'll be taking place, I think, between the 5th and the 8th of January. Anyway, but the beginning of January.
You said World Cup. Sorry, I was quite confused.
FA Cup. I'm sorry. I'm going too fast for my own good.
There's another derby as well. The M26 derby, which is Brighton versus Palace. There was a lot of trouble at the Premier League game that happened a couple of weeks ago, and that's coming up too. Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything.
We've also got Manchester United versus Derby, which
sorry, Derby.
Yeah, apologies. And the mighty Cardiff playing, well, the equally as mighty as some would say, Mansfield of League 2. So I'm looking forward to that when we lose 2-0 when we're playing our kids, and we get embarrassed by another team. We haven't actually come out of the third round of the FA Cup in 3 years now, and we were
Really?
in the final in 2008. It's
Well,
shocking.
now you might have that chance. Hopefully, you never know what happens.
I
with
really
the FA
hope
Cup.
that we do. Warnock actually said he did like a Q&A with the fans, which was a great thing to see. And he said that when people criticised him for not playing full team in the FA Cup, he said, if you bring 20,000, then I'll play a full team.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
that's quite funny. Anyway, moving on from notable FA Cup draws, but staying in Cardiff, in the realm of Cardiff, news emerging that Aaron Gunnarsson was to not sign a new contract. I believe it expires at the end of the season. So he will be leaving the Welsh capital, much to Bev's dismay. He's
one of my favourite players, and he's been with Cardiff now for, I want to say, 8 years. He's Cardiff's longest-serving player. And I'm very disappointed that he will potentially be leaving. He has said that if we go up, he'll play in the Premier League with us. But he wants either a move to a top flight abroad or to the Premier League. And I've said for at least 2 years that he's good enough to make that step up.
Yeah.
How he's stayed at championship level, I'll never know. It's actually a bit shocking. I could be a bit biased, but when Iceland, and he is Iceland captain, by the way, beat England, he was man of the match. He won everything in midfield. A few Cardiff fans turning on him a little bit, not necessarily being nasty, but ones who have been singing his praises in the past, saying that he wouldn't make it in the Premier League, and that's just not true.
Do you think it's right for him to say the comments at the time he has done in the season?
I would also like to say that he didn't actually say it directly. Neil Warnock said it himself, but he said that's what Aaron Gunnarsson said. So I don't think Warnock would lie about something like that. But I mean, I suppose now is a good time.
Yeah.
Because we're certainly not losing momentum because we've won 4 games in a row. But
do you want to quickly talk about the Nottingham Forest fixture?
Oh, and we've had one since as well.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Cardiff's recent results then? Because we haven't talked about the Cardiff results in quite a while on this podcast. Do you want to give us a little bit of insight?
I'll give a mention. Yeah. Well, the last 4 games we've won. Brentford 2-1. Oh gosh, why can't I think of the other one? That's really bad. It was. Yeah, Brentford, we won 2-1.
Is it Fulham?
No, it wasn't. In fact,
I don't know why I'm thinking of Fulham.
I will think about that now whilst I'm pulling up the results. But it was Brentford 2-1. Then our last 2 have been Nottingham Forest away, and also Norwich at home. Yeah. And I've been Barnsley away. That was the other result. We won 1-0. I would say that the Barnsley and Brentford games we played really poorly, honestly, and we didn't deserve to win, but we did, and that's a title contending, certainly promotion contending team thing to do.
Drawing comparisons with Manchester City, shall we say?
I'm just saying that Raheem Sterling and Nathaniel Mendes-Lang basically the same player.
Funnily enough, I've seen comparisons between Neil Warnock and the likes of Jose Mourinho that have come out as anti-football style of managers.
Wow, I hadn't seen that. I suppose they've both been considered that, but I've never seen someone draw the comparison.
I've seen criticisms of Neil Warnock's style of play, saying that he's not promoting fluent football.
Yeah, but you notice that everyone who's saying that are in mid-table. Leeds fans are saying it. I'm like, yeah, but you're the mighty Leeds. You get 30,000 at every home game. Oh, where are you? Your manager is only famous for playing for Barcelona. That's about it. In fairness, against Norwich, our first half was the worst half of that we've had of football this season, and we came out probably the second half we've had of the season, and won 3-1. We just keep getting results, and I don't know when it's going to stop. And we've got a lot of injuries. We've got, I think, 6 first-team players out at the moment, and when they all come back, our squad is ridiculously good.
Mm.
Omar Bogle, I don't know where he came from. We signed him from Wigan. Definitely Wigan. For about £800,000, and Liam was at this game, so let me know what you think. of him.
It was the Norwich game on the
It
weekend.
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a really good game.
Little bit of context to that. He had played 2 games before, scored 2 goals in those 2 games, but also got sent off against Bristol.
I still haven't seen the tackle yet. I might have
it was
a
a
quick
horror
gander.
tackle. You've got to
I'll
see
have
it.
a look.
And he deserved to get sent off, and I felt really bad for him because I was thinking, well, that's his chance gone now because Zahor will be back and Danny Ward will probably kick on because he's a good player as well, and nothing, and that would be it. And then he came back after his 3-game ban. Danny Ward played awfully. Zahor's out till Christmas, and he came on and scored an absolute baller of a goal. And he's a baller himself. Everyone loves Omar Bogle. Are you watching it now? I want to get your live reaction.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look.
Okay.
Anyway, just going back to the Aaron Gunnarsson situation at the moment.
Yeah.
Spitball some names. Where do you think that he can end up?
Well, he's definitely a player Swansea could do with, but he'd end up in the Championship again next season if he went, so he wouldn't bother.
Do you really think the Cardiff City captain will go to Swansea?
He's not Cardiff City captain.
He's not, is he?
No, he's Iceland captain, but not Cardiff captain. I have said for years that he needs to be our captain.
I mean, that just shows because I obviously thought that.
I mean,
he
Sean
was your
Morrison
captain.
is an absolutely great guy, right? And he talks so much on the pitch. But when you're up in the stands, all you can hear is Aaron Gunnarsson screaming at players, dictating them. Either way, no, I genuinely think that somewhere like
what club of his ability do you think need that rock in midfield at the moment?
West Brom. West Brom, I don't think are going to go down.
West
I think
Brom
they
are a
could
good
do
shout.
with
Burnley maybe they just let Joe Ledley go.
Or Palace, we'll let him go.
Okay, no, I'm thinking of someone else then. Burnley maybe.
Burnley for sure. But then they got Jack Court. I mean, they basically play with like 5 centre midfielders.
Okay.
So I suppose they could do with another one, I guess.
Well, Crystal Palace then maybe.
Possibly Crystal Palace if they stay up.
Poor Ross over
And
here.
I wouldn't feel bad about
it's
him going there.
it's those bloomin' claret kicks making my brain all fuzzy.
Oh damn. I mean, I don't think he'd go to West Ham or anywhere like that, but he's a good enough player too. Funny enough about thinking about Burnley, if they've got a Icelandic player who they signed from the Championship club a couple of years ago, Gudmundsson, they signed him from Charlton, and he's quite a good player.
Anywhere outside of the Premier League,
I think
maybe
he's good
Serie
enough
A.
to make it for a team in like maybe in the Europa League in one, like, you know, like Portugal, something like that, or maybe Italy, France. You know.
Sorry, that's
a shocking tackle, isn't
it? On the Cardiff City YouTube, though, it's showing tackles that were on Bogle before the actual challenge. So I don't know whether they're trying to justify why he did it, but it's such a bad tackle.
I mean, it's a bad tackle.
Are we playing out? Like, they show you two tackles on him for some reason, like as some context.
Okay.
And then,
he got sent off, but at least he gave him one back, innit?
yeah, so I don't know who that is, but obviously climbs over
The ball
him.
just gets into midfield, and he's just
Oh my god! Is that the challenge?
No, another big tackle on him, which they're showing. I don't know why.
There's absolutely
a big tackle.
And then
there's no reason for him to go in like that.
Oh my goodness!
There's no reason for him to go in like that. And I was slating
shocking.
earlier, saying, joking about
That
the
is
striker's finish, but that's a
shocking.
striker's tackle. That's definitely a striker's tackle. You know, he doesn't train to do that.
Oh dear. He slides further than Sol Campbell did in that clip from years ago. Have you seen that
some
one?
say Sol Campbell's still sliding.
It's literally like that.
It was
Yeah,
awful.
that's
I tell you what, he's probably walking before the ref pulled his card out either. He knew he was off.
That was bad.
Anyway, back to Aaron Gunnarsson. Teams outside of the Premier League that you think he can go to?
Yeah. I was saying that I think that somewhere like Italy, you could go do somewhere like that. Maybe France. You know, I honestly think, and someone's gonna laugh at me, and I know it. But he's good enough to play in like the Europa League or somewhere like that. And the fact that he's playing in the Euros and World Cup qualifiers and doing what he does is fully to his proving my point. That I guess somewhere like Atalanta maybe.
I said that. I threw that name out there to you a couple of days ago. Maybe Lazio.
Nah,
or do you think Lazio's
midfield
midfield is too good?
Yeah, a bit too good. Who knows? Maybe Benevento could do with a midfielder. I'd love that. If he was going to leave anywhere, I'd love him to go to Benevento and lose all their games. Either way, I felt like I've talked a bit too much about Cardiff today. I was in a good mood before I started talking. And we're second.
Anything you want to say to Aaron Gunnarsson personally?
I love you.
No, look into the camera while you say it.
Chantel, I loved you. Please don't leave, Aaron. I love you, and
Oh, dear.
I don't know what I did wrong.
We remember that time we saw you in Live Lounge.
Oh
Yeah.
my God!
Oh, yes.
We had.
Oh, those
had
pictures are still on my phone. I will tweet them to him and be like, because
Oh, it's brilliant.
literally, I took that photo with him. I said, "How are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm doing really good." He's like, "Where are you go? Oh, you going anywhere?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'll go where you're going." Oh, hey, lads. And then he chugged a beer in front of me. Like, it just in front of me. I was like,
He had so many pints bought from that night.
I-
I saw so many people with him just at the
I think
bar,
I probably
clearly
bought him
buying him
one.
a drink.
I genuinely think I bought him one.
Anyway, shout out to, and I'll also shout out to Ben Amos, busted bear shapes on the dance floor that night. It was quite funny.
Lee Peltier and what's his name? Anthony Pilkington. I forgot because he never plays anymore. They obviously they were dancing in Live Lounge at one time. They went to the Christmas party dressed as the characters from White Men Can't Jump, which is brilliant.
That's such a niche costume.
I know. Even better, they've been dubbed White Men Can't Cross. So anyway, championship football, proper football.
Shall we get into this week's top 5?
No, not yet. I think we should go.
Oh,
We'll go
okay.
members game first, shall we?
Okay.
Because we're about 50 minutes in.
I was joking.
Messing with the running order. Okay, it's fine.
Oh, sorry. No,
oh,
I,
no.
I think they deserve a break. What are we going to put over it, though? Do you reckon we could get maybe the footage of the Hereford fans when they drew Leicester? Do you reckon James could give us that?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's quite something good.
Well, he's got the footage of it, so yeah, definitely.
It's his footage, so yeah.
So could do, yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah, I did tell you this is a bit of a madness this week. So if any of you get it or get anywhere near it, you'd be I don't know.
Do I win something?
Well, we were
You might do.
We were quite close last week. Well, I was anyway.
Yeah. Oh. Bev, did you hear that?
No, I
Well,
didn't.
no, Bev was closer in terms of final percentage. My maths were better.
Right. Your question for this week is the number of times hashtag Benevento Milan was tweeted as of 10 p.m. last night.
Oh no!
No.
That's amazing.
Oh.
Can we appreciate how far in I'm going for these questions?
I will do Benevento watch after this then,
Okay.
purely because of that.
Okay.
But yeah, sure, go for it.
And if you times this by the number of goals Brignoli, obviously the Benevento goalkeeper, has conceded this season.
Oh no!
Oh, no!
He's played in 8. He's
Bev is
played-
already at an advantage over me.
He's
I-
played
no,
in
but
8
slightly.
games, okay? He's played in 8 games. He hasn't played in all of them, I don't know
Oh,
why.
okay.
And this should equal the capacity of Benevento Stadium, Ciro Vigorito, butchered it probably, when rounded up to the nearest 1,000. I believe that's the seated capacity because, well, I'll tell you after once you...
They've got a safe standing area, haven't they, which is not allowed.
Yeah, to do that. But
Okay.
I'll leave them with
So,
that
so if all
question.
goes to plan, you'll see footage of the Hereford fans being drawn against Leicester City or potentially.
Mhm.
If not, we'll see you in a moment. So just enjoy this clip if it's there. Welcome back. Hopefully you did enjoy that little interlude view there. So, Liam, would you
There
care
was still
to...
context behind the interlude as well. We just went, "Oh, is this, by the way?"
Oh yeah, hopefully it would have been the Hereford fans' reaction to the FA Cup draw, courtesy of James Thomas, hopefully, of Bulls News. If not, then I'm going to cut all this out. Anyway,
And
Liam.
then upload it as an outtake.
Liam, would you like to reiterate the numbers game that you set for us
Right.
before the interlude?
Yeah, again, the question is the number of times hashtag Benevento Milan was tweeted as of 10 p.m. last night when I did this, times by the number of goals Brignoli has conceded this season in the 8 games he's played for Benevento, and this should equal the capacity, or the seated capacity, sorry, of Ciro Vigorito when rounded up to the nearest 1,000.
Now, we said this, or we know this, because their stadium is quite... I'm dropping everything. Their stadium capacity is quite low, because they had safe standing, which is not allowed in the top tier of Italy.
Yeah.
So,
Can I go first? Because I have a feeling you've got it way closer than I have.
okay, yeah.
So I'm of the right mind that the capacity in Benevento Stadium is around 15 to 18,000.
Okay.
And using that logic, I think that I need to think of my maths a second.
Oh gosh.
I think that hashtag Benevento Milan was tweeted around. Oh god, this is really hard. Okay, I'm just gonna go for my initial thought because I changed it. So I thought that the Benevento Stadium had a capacity of 20,000, which I know is quite ambitious, but still. And I thought that Brignoli had conceded around 19 or 18 or 19 goals so far this season, which leaves the number of tweets at roughly 1,000, 1,100.
Okay. I'm giving anything away.
I'm going to go with, on the low side, I think that their stadium capacity is only about 6,000. If anything, I think that's generous, but it worked out easy maths. So I'm going to say it was only tweeted about 500 times because, if I'm not mistaken, what you were saying was that it was hashtag Benevento Milan.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have used that hashtag in Italy. They would have only used that in like America or the UK.
Okay.
And that he's conceded 12 goals over the last 8 games.
Right.
How close am I?
Oh, you're sort of both. It's going to be hard to choose who wins on this one. He's conceded 18 goals, so Ross was pretty much spot on,
Yes.
18-19.
Nice.
When I checked last night, it had been tweeted 703 times.
Oh, wow, so our maths is really close.
So yeah, we're about halfway between.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're both sort of there,
Okay.
and when you times that together, it equals 12,654.
It's bang in the middle.
Oh
That's what
my
I mean.
god, no!
But apparently Benevento's capacity, according to 3 sources, is 12,847, so about 13,000.
But Ross
when
said
rounded up.
20, and I said 6.
6.
And that means that he's...
You're a bit closer on the final sum.
It's down to Liam at the end of the day. This
Yep.
is his thing.
Yep.
Oh,
So we both ends of the spectrum with us, but very equal ends.
That was really
compared from the
cool,
real
actually,
answer, so.
that's hard.
I mean, if I'm making a case for myself, I did get the goals conceded pretty much bang on.
I am going to give it to Ross this week before he tries to sweet talk me as well. But
I'm 2-0 down.
he,
How has this happened?
Yeah, he had the goals
can't believe you've done
conceded pretty
this.
much bang on, and the tweets was a lot closer
No, that's
because Bev copped out and went for quick maths.
2
How
plus 2
dare
is
you.
4.
But yeah, before we go on to that, yeah, it's weird Benevento's stadium because apparently it was 25,000 capacity.
Oh, wow.
And it got reduced to 17,000 when they took the safe standing out, and apparently it got reduced to
Well,
even
then I would
more
have been
again.
closer.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't really know the actual capacity of it, but I mean, I got about 13,000 from the few sources I looked at. But
I love how you have incorporated Benevento because it perfectly ties in to me talking about Benevento as well. Hashtag Benevento Watch is back. We said that we would talk about them every single week
I'm so
until
glad we
they
did.
won a game. And what's happened? They've drawn. Finally, they've got their first point of the season after their goalkeeper, Alberto Brignoli, scored a 95th minute winner against AC Milan to make it 2-2. And what a header it was.
What a bullet header
It was
activated.
unbelievable.
Incredible.
And that, I mean, what
Alvaro
can we say?
Morata would have been proud of that
Oh,
header.
yes,
What
thank
is
you.
there to say? I think Gattuso, the AC Milan's new manager, and it was his first game as well, put it best. He said, it would be better if I had been stabbed after that goal.
I love
Was
Gattuso so
conceded.
much.
I never expect to suffer like that. So there we are. Congratulations to Benevento. We'll keep our end of the bargain because we will still talk about you until we win. Probably after as well. I really enjoy this segment.
What if they don't win this season? Are we following them all the way?
That'd be even better.
If you go an entire season without winning, we're going on our lads' holiday to Benevento.
Well, that would make a great highlight video for the end of the season, may I add,
Good.
of all the Benevento watches.
Oh, it will.
Across
Didn't even
the
think of
season.
that.
Anyway,
So congratulations to Benevento on your first point. Please, please, please carry on being fantastically bad.
anyway, I just want to throw out there that I'm now 2-0 up in the numbers game. I don't think we clarified that enough.
No, I did. I clarified it too much.
Anyway, shall we get on to this week's top 5 before our football funny?
Top 5.
Hang on. You're not 2-0 up. I won last week.
No, I won last week.
No, I won last week.
No,
you won the top 5 last week.
Who won the numbers game last week?
Oh, I don't know.
No, I remember.
I feel really bad that I don't know. Yeah, I think Bev.
No,
I think you made it 1-1 last week, so I think that now makes Ross 2-1 up.
Okay.
Oh.
We'll work it out, but either way.
Yeah, it was, because I only started judging top 5 as of last week, didn't I? So, yeah.
So
you're 2-1 up.
I'm 2-1 up.
2-1
Yay. Up. Anyway.
Nothing's changed.
I'll put the sound.
I don't want to be alive.
Top 5.
Okay, so this week's top 5 is a very interesting topic.
I enjoyed researching this one.
I enjoyed it as well, because we were struggling to come up with ideas for this week's top 5. So on the walk home,
already run out of ideas.
On the walk home from university yesterday, I come up with the idea of underdogs. Not necessarily underdogs who've not. It's quite hard. Basically,
what happened was Ross watched the film Underdog and thought that's what we want to do. Absolute Disney classic.
Fun fact: I actually saw it in the cinema for my 10th birthday.
Is that true?
It's true.
Oh, there we are. Well, it's ingrained in the culture of your life.
My girlfriend at the time was there with us, and my mates threw Haribo at her. It was quality.
Girlfriend at the time. Wait, how old are you?
I was 10.
Oh,
what a player!
What a player!
It was his 10th birthday. Of course, he was 10.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't paying attention to how old he was. Just the fact he had a girlfriend, took her to the cinema with the boys as well, and proceeded to throw Haribo at her. Ross clearly didn't back her up either. Ross joined in.
No, my mum was there as well.
Oh my God, it's worse.
And they're still together now. It's a beautiful thing.
No, we're not.
It was a waste of Star Mix. It was really.
I think it was Tang Fastics actually.
Oh,
so
that's all right. Then.
Can we get a name?
Okay.
Can we get a name?
No, we cannot.
Do not.
We cannot.
Do not bait her out like that.
Why?
This was like 10 years ago
she
as
might
well.
She might be bloody distraught.
No, okay.
She might never buy
for the
Haribo again.
For the last time.
Top 5.
Okay.
Please, no.
Think about the Haribo adverts now with those old men with the kids' voices. She must be traumatized. Sorry. Yeah, go on. Do top 5. Sorry, do top 5.
So top 5. Well, we come up with the idea of managerial triumphs first. So managers who have dragged a lesser team to success.
Yeah.
But that didn't turn out right in terms of phrasing, so we just labelled it top 5 underdogs. So I'm going to name my honourable mentions before we get underway. So in terms of honourable mentions, I've got the Porto Champions League winning team of 2004, obviously the making of Jose Mourinho. I've got the RB Leipzig success of last season, considering that they were only formed 7 years ago, and they managed to build their way up to being second in the Bundesliga, which I thought was quite interesting. Then we've got the Montpellier triumph of the 2011-2012 season.
Oh, I didn't even think of
winning
that
the
one.
league. Obviously, the making of
Yeah.
Olivier Giroud, who was the top scorer, I believe, that year.
Yep.
And then finally, we've got Wales Euros 2016.
It didn't make your top 5.
It didn't make my top 5.
I can't believe that.
It didn't make my
I
top
can't
5.
believe you've done this.
I can't
Purely
believe
because
that.
there's another team in my top list who went further on in the Euros and had bigger odds against them.
I think I know.
And actually, there's two teams. There's two teams who had better success in the Euros.
I mean,
And they were even more of underdogs.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, have you got any honourable mentions for this week?
Only one. Julian Nagelsmann's Hoffenheim of 2016-17.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Also, last season, by no means had any right to do as well, and he made the Champions League with them.
Okay.
And also, I like Julian Nagelsmann.
Do you want to go with your number 5 pick then? Because
Go on,
I'm gonna swap mine around a sec.
I don't know. We got rules on this.
Oh.
What's that?
Are there rules on this?
Yeah,
I've done it before now, so it's all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So don't look
Okay.
at my laptop. Liam can look at my laptop. You can't.
My number 5 pick. I hope that you've I hope that you've put this down somewhere. Is Otto Reigel's Greece team that won Euro 2004.
That's actually what I was switching to my number 5 as well. So
Oh,
we can talk about
that worked really well.
That's brilliant.
They beat the hosts Portugal in the final. They also beat them in the first game of the tournament.
But it was such a slog of a tournament for them. I think the biggest result was 1-0.
Yeah, they won 1-0 against the Czech Republic.
A side which featured big names such as Petr Cech and Milan Baros at the time.
Yep.
So that was a
And
big
they
upset.
also beat France which would have
It
included Zidane, probably
Thierry
Desai,
Henry.
or
It was
a young Henry,
Big team.
Vieira. But this Portugal team they beat twice in the tournament was their golden generation. A young Cristiano Ronaldo, Luis Figo.
Sorry, the infamous photo of Ronaldo crying.
Yes,
Came from the final of that year's
that's
Euros.
true. But Luis Figo, Deco, also Rui Costa. You know,